Hi all, that was a short hit up. It's 2 minutes past midnight in Moscow, and you are watching the Nightly Code channel. My name is Vladimir. And today we have a musical stream about the problems of mixing and recording the projects. First of all, I want to start with a reason why this stream has been initiated. Oh, there's an author already of the original topic on the Russian forum. So let's start short history about how we came to this stream. There was an original topic on the Russian forum, and I'll just read some theses from it to understand what is happening at this moment. So the initial topic was asking some users of the Russian forum, and especially me, it was calling me for help with the such question. I'll read it now. So I'll just keep the order open. And on the left screen, I have it already translated, the text into English. So maybe I will a bit confusing bringing the original idea, but I try to translate it as near as possible. So the initial topic sounded in such case. I'm recording a simple song in Ardour just for probe and understand that guitar frequencies are not good and need to be corrected. So the rhythm guitar embraces 2 separate tracks written sequentially, is intermixing with the solo guitar, and the bass is not well audible. Who sets which frequencies on the equalizer? So, to understand what's happened, the author of the topic has recorded a cover to the anime opening called Digimon's anime, and understood that there are serious problems in the recording and asked us to help with the tuning guitars. From the other side, since the tuning of guitars is pretty individual story, I asked him to provide the original sources of the recorded project to understand the problems with the recorded material, with the recorded sources. So some time ago, about a day or 2 days, the author provided the original Ardour project and provided additionally a corresponding comment about this project. I won't read the whole comment. I will just read the tip listed items that the original author provided to understand with what we will have to work today. So, the supplementary comment. Point 1. A bit another notes. I couldn't completely restore the original song within 2 days. That's why I have simplified it. Okay, that's not a problem. You are covering the song. It is not a strict requirement to pass all notes and to play all notes as it was in the original source. But some covers require this, some covers not. It depends on what you want to reach at the end. So that's not a problem. That's just how you wanted to do the cover, or have you done the job as you expected or not. The second one. I've played with a metronome for the first time of my life. Shock, horror, nightmare. As a result, I've barely hit the notes in the braces, and in some places didn't ever hit. Over 100 times have re-recorded all. Braces closing. So I was required to turn on the original sound on the YouTube and play with it, because that became much easier for me. Looking backwards, I came to the understanding that I could just add the song to the project as an additional track. Yes, we will return back to this while exploring the project, and that the author does his self-analysis. That's good, since looking back into the project, into the job he has already done, and finding the problems and correcting them in the future is a good thing. So I think I need to. Oh, okay. There are still no comments. Hi all. There are some people who are interested in what will happen on this stream. Okay. Anyway, we'll continue then. The third thing. I have written drums in hydrogen after recording guitar and bass. As a result, a bit broken rhythm and the whole recording is howling. So, yes, this is one of the often problems, and this problem can be split into different sub-problems, and we will dig into these problems and understand how to fix them. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next time I will think 8 times before using guitar rigs instead of recording the dry tracks and adding the overall processing with plugins. Yes, that's the good thing. As you understand, the author has done the retrospective of his work, and understood that he had problems with some plugins or with some processing, and in the future he probably need to understand how to fix these problems, try other plugins, try other gear, and so on. So that's good. Guitars have been recorded into sessions, and in the next session I didn't set enough gain for the audio interface. So I was required to move the takes to separate tracks with additional gain adjusted in the DAW. Yes, that's that's the additional problem, but this is not so critical, but this is also important to remember the settings and checking your setup before starting the recording. And we will come back to this further. And additional comments. About the equalizer, I have added high and a bit reduced low frequencies for rhythm guitars. For the solo guitar, the same, except that instead of high frequencies, I have added in the middle frequencies. For the bass, I've added a bit low and middle frequencies. It seems that the situation became better. At least guitars became distinguished one to another and not mixing into the common soup. So the original problem was that one guitar couldn't be distinguished behind the second guitar, and there was the problem that I believe the solo guitar was syncing inside the mix. In the mix, it was syncing in the mix, and the rhythm guitar was too loud for the solo guitar, and when making the solo guitar loud, it sounded very poorly and bad. I believe that was the problem for the original topic started. And the last comment, and before you will resend, take into account that I have did a probe and wanted to look how the recording happens at all. Okay, there is not a problem. All we have once started the recording process, and we all have been novices, and the best way of the novice is to quickly eliminate all errors he previously did and become an audio producer. So today we will dig into this project and look what could be done better, and what errors and mistakes could be prevented. And I'll look into this project and probably recall my problems and my personal mistakes that I did when recording the project, when I started the audio producing career. So I need to a bit change the reordering of my tools. So I think we should start first with listening the original material, original recording without any processing. So as the raw tracks, how they have been recorded, and how do they sound together. So, but before we do this, I'll just lower the loudness of the master bass. So, let's see. Oh, sorry, I have muted the solo guitar, so let's start again. Okay, now we can already start analyzing this project and finding the mistakes. And the first mistake that comes from my experience is that project starts exactly at the start of the timeline. Let me explain why I consider this as a mistake, but not so important mistake. According to my experience, we have had written some songs. There were drafts too, but when I wanted to reuse the project and add something to the project, especially writing the introduction to the song, the problem was that there was no space at the start. So this is not exactly the mistake, as I have said, but adding some extra space for about a minute is a good practice. So for me, for example, when I start the song, I just scroll to the 0.30 or 0.1 minute, 30 seconds or to 1 minute, and start recording from this point. So my projects usually look like this. So there is a gap, there is a song written with some takes, and there is a gap at the end. So when I just want to export something, I just define the range. There is already the range defined. I just move it. And then when I export the song, I just specify this range to export. I believe this could be called the Dragonfly. Alex F. Actually, I don't know who are you. Please give me some help to understand who are you. So let's continue. Okay. Then this is. I will repeat. That's not the mistake. But if you are writing the draft or you are doing some workflow, the improvisation, and so I just recommend to keep some space before the project, before the starting the first scale of the song. The second problem, it comes from the description of the topic and of the project. There was the wrong plan. Oh, okay, Alex. Okay. There was the wrong plan of recording the project. When starting the recording, you need the plan and the order in which order you want to record the instruments. So there can be different orders depending on your skills and your possibilities. For example, we can do the usual stuff and start recording with the drums. Then we record bass. Then we record guitars. Then we record vocal and so on. But there can be another order of recording. For example, we can start with the guitars, but that requires that guitars should play well with the metronome, and they should work well with metronome. And then after recording guitars, we can record any other instrument like drums, like bass, like vocals, and so on. But since all players and all musicians play straightforward following the metronome, then there is almost no problems mixing them together. Okay, the original author, Karchvatel, says that he has skipped 4 scales before this starting the project. But after all, he has just moved all to the beginning. There's no need, since we can just define the range and use this range when exporting. When I will just show session, export our audio files, and time span, we just select the Dragonfly, and that's all. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay. Sorry, I was too. I just pressed the button that I shouldn't press, and I now need to restore. I just need to restore the session. So please wait a bit. Do you see something? Yeah, yes, the stream has started. The problem was that I just started. I just pressed the export button in the Ardour, and that was yes, and that was not the the right choice. So I just need to restore my session, restore my settings a bit. Please wait a bit. I'm a bit in panic now. So here I need to open Carla and tune the settings. Tune the routing. Okay. Seems that Carla has restored the routing. Not currently. Wait a bit, please. And my audio system has died after pressing the stop button. So I need the information for you. Do you hear something from me, and do you hear the Ardour session? I'll just launch the playback, and do you hear something? I believe you will hear. Okay, sound is good. That's nice. Let's continue. So, as I have recommended, we would just move the song starting with a 1 minute. Change the range. Okay, good. And just rename it to Dragonfly. Okay, let's continue. As I have already read from the description of the author, he did the retrospective into what he did and found that it was it could be much easier to just import the audio recording into the project and record the project listening this audio original song. The Dragonfly is the original name of the intro to the anime, I believe. Or Butterfly. Yes, Butterfly. Yes, that's good. Okay, but we won't do this since there may be some copyright issues. So I won't import this to the project, but if you do the cover, it is much easier to just import the project and use it as a reference for your recording. So it could be one additional track here, and you could solve many problems except that you just will play. Importing the original track helps you to do just the loop around some part of the project and listen again until you find the right notes. So you can do the time range so small as you can to understand what you should play when covering the project and what actual notes are used in the original song. So this helps you to not to listen the whole song at all and to scroll it manually and to find the right place and so on. You just find the start time when you want to understand what's happening in the mix and find the end time when you just want to end up discovering what's happening inside the mix. So this is a very good case when you can simplify your workflow and make a serious economy of the time when trying to reproduce the original song with your hands or your instruments. The second problem, the next problem. So there was a question about what tracks do you hear while recording the guitar. It really depends. I think you should listen the only tracks that you are comfortable to listen. But there are some situations when you cannot listen all except the metronome. So when you are recording the first track. For example, when I start recording with a guitar, I just create a metronome track and I listen this metronome track only. And this helps me in two ways. First of all, I understand how I precisely fit into the rhythm. And the second, that doesn't hide my mistakes. So when playing the guitar, I just hear all my mistakes and I'm forced to correct them. as I can. And we come to the next problem in this project. The problem is that no metronome was used. So the original author tried to play with metronome, but according to what I understand, he failed this and tried to change the workflow and play with the YouTube. And the more problem became playing with YouTube became the more problem, the greater problem, since this should also be synchronized with what has been already recorded, and there is no mechanism to synchronize the YouTube background music with the project you are recording. So if you could import the original song into the project, you had no problems with synchronizing the song with your takes. The author says that he didn't turn off the metronome. Oh, I believe that was really the nightmare when trying to hear metronome, drums, and trying to play for the both. I probably, in this way, I would probably just disable the metronome. So, for this case, when I record the project, I just add the additional track, which contains just clicks for the metronome, and I use the GRUT. As we see, there is no GRUT enabled, and this is the problem too. The GRUT is your helper. It's not your fiend. It helps you to understand where the notes should be placed. And you also can see that some notes do not fit the GRUT, and you can fix this immediately by just re-recording or moving parts of the recording across the timeline. So I would recommend to import the original song, make the metronome matching the original song, even if there are songs where the metronome can float, there are where the original tempo can float. So you need to take this into account. And there's sometimes not so easy to do the correct metronome. But if you do this, this will help you a lot. The next problem is that I have just moved not very precisely. I'll just select all. And align these to the grid. And I just need to push the snap button to make the right alignment. Yes. And here we see also that different regions are aligned to the different places. And especially we have drums that are not aligned at all. So I believe I need to check. So we see that there are some hits for the drums and they are not aligned to the grid. And it seems that there are written with a bit different tempo or with some different shifts. I don't understand until I will just align them to the grid. So you must align the drums to the grid so they could match the metronome clicks. Since the metronome clicks starts exactly at this vertical line, and the next click will be here, and the next click will be here, and the next will be here, and so on. So I believe we will correct this a bit. Oh, so a bit later. Yes. So the next problem, the imprecise instruments. What I mean for this, if you are recording some instrument and you record multiple takes for this instrument to make this instrument sounding in stereo, or maybe in quadro, or maybe adding some additional effects. There are also quadro tracks available, and maybe additional some mid-side technologies. Anyway, the first track should match to the other tracks. So if we listen just the rhythm guitar, we will see the problem. So the guitars don't play exactly one into another. So as a recommendation, I would give that you should turn on your previous take while recording the guitar. So you need to turn on the original track. You probably need to turn on the metronome, and you need to turn on the take that you have previously recorded. So, and you will find out what is written incorrectly. Is the take you are writing at this moment written incorrectly, recorded incorrectly, or played incorrectly? Or is the previous take that you have already captured written or played incorrectly? At this moment, I can't actually say what was played incorrectly and what was played correctly, or maybe both takes could be recorded incorrectly, and both takes require to be corrected or re-recorded. Anyway, now we see that these takes differ too much. If we set the mono on the master, then we will probably better see the problem. So we see that both guitars do not fit into the rhythm. So in the type better to record guitar in mono or stereo, you can see my previous video where I explain how I do record guitar, and I found a good recipe for this. I recommend to record takes and listen takes in mono the first time, and then split the takes, one take to the left ear and the second take to the right ear, and listen them together again. If takes sound good in mono and if they sound good in stereo, then you have no problems with your takes. If you see that there are problems in mono, then your track won't be mono compatible, and you will have some issues while mixing the result, and probably this won't sound as good as it could. So first of all, listen your takes of the same instrument in mono and then split them to left and right and listen as stereo, since one track can hide problems in another track. First of all, we'll hear that tracks match one to another, and when splitting to stereo, we hear if there are mistakes in some take. For example, one skipped note, or one note was taken wrongly, or some other problems that can happen. Okay. Now if we go back to stereo, we can listen that even in stereo they sound not good one to the another. No, that's not the same signals. That's just the first take, and that's just the second take. So these are both different recordings. And if we do recording well, then these recordings should match as most as possible one to another. And in this case, they don't match one to another. And we have additional problem to probably align them, cut them, and glue after that, and so on. So from my experience, it's better to rewrite the take, which will be more correct and fit in the rhythm, instead of just splitting the signal into shortcuts and moving them around the time scale and then gluing them one to another. And sometimes it's not possible to glue them one to another. So this is the good questions about that each track has two channels. We'll come to it a bit later. So drums not aligned and imprecise instruments. Okay. Takes are not synchronized. I mean that there is not only imprecise instruments, that they will have such shifts in the timeline. When you are working with the material, it is good reason to cut the extra endings of your regions and probably remove some of them. This will help you to quickly edit the material that you have recorded. So I'll look at this moment at the beginning and at the end of the recording, and probably I will just cut the extra space or add something. Also remember that removing something is much more risky than adding something. So if you have something removed, something extra removed, it is hard to restore what you have removed. So I'll just remove as least as possible. So just this. Okay. The next problem, trying to record long takes. As we see, this take is pretty long. It lasts about 25 seconds, about 25 seconds. And I believe for the author who has just started recording, this is a pretty long take. For the author, I would like to recommend to record with short shots, like 4 scales or even less. So I would like to recommend to record this with these 4 scales, then with these 4 scales, then with these 4 scales or bars, and so on. Uh, Doing this could save the time re-recording the whole take, and moreover, they raise the quality of the final takes. If you concentrate the less, then you will get more as a result. So you don't need to uh, solve problems from switching to one riff to another and so on. And you just need to feed the rhythm for 4 bars, not for 24 bars. And that's a good recommendation for novices that start recording, to record not with long takes. You can record with long takes only when you understand that you have enough time and you are pretty good to record these long takes. The comment, what I'm trying to say is easier to understand from the waveform in the mono channel, where there are strong discrepancies. The guitar only gives a mono signal, more logical to write in mono. Sorry for the boredom. Anyway, I will come back and show that actually this guitar is not stereo. And we will see this. And this question is also fitting the next point that I wanted to explain, that that novices try to record a mono instrument like guitar as a stereo instrument. As an example, we can look at this track. It seems to be stereo, but it's not stereo at all. If we invert the phase on the right channel and disable the panning, then we will see hear nothing. I have missed something, I believe. Oh, I need to do the mono. Yes. There is no guitar, as you see. If I just rule the slider, then we will hear the guitar. What does it mean? This means that the left channel is equal to the right channel in the recording. And inverting the phase, we invert the sign of the signal, and adding the signal to the signal with the inverse sign, we get the 0 at the output. And our case shows this. That's not the phase problem. It's just the recording problem when you try to record the mono instrument as a stereo instrument and utilize 2 audio channels instead of 1 audio channel. So actually that should look like just 1 audio channel, and there should be no the second audio channel at all. So why this is the problem? First of all, it's harder to pan. So I just need to change the type of slider. I need to process this with stereo plugins, not mono plugins. Stereo plugins eat more CPU. You require more place, more disk space to store your project, and so on. So if you record a mono instrument, please record it in mono, not in stereo. And I recall my experience. I was trying to record the mono guitar with stereo guitar too, I just tried to do this with an integrated audio card, integrated audio interface on the motherboard of the computer, and my takes looked like the left channel was present and the right channel was zeroed. And that was the mistake too. And after that, I was thinking on what's happening and understanding and reading their recommendation from others. And finally, I got to that fact that the mono instruments should be recorded as mono and nothing else. So the main mistake here is that each guitar is recorded as stereo while it is keeping the mono guitar. The next problem. The next problem is trying to simulate stereo without doing the right job. This is not related to this project. This is related to my experience when I tried to record the mono guitar and try to make some stereo enhancement of this guitar to make it sounding in stereo. That's pretty hard to do this, but sometimes we require this. For example, if we have the live recording where there's only one microphone and there is only one take which is played live, we need to do some processing that requires to extend the spatial image of the guitar. And there can be additional effects applied that do this. But the processed track sounds like a processed track, not like a real stereo widened guitar. So for this, if you record this stereo guitar, just please write 2 takes which match one to another, and just pen them one to left and one to right. This is the simplest way to get the wide guitar in your mix. And the second problem is that trying to record your project with a cheapest gear. What I mean related to this is also my experience of recording. And of course, when I was young and I tried to record guitar and I had not so much money, I tried to do this as cheap as possible. And I tried different approaches like purchasing the cheap microphone and trying to record with this microphone during the integrated audio interface. Please don't do this. Just buy a simple external audio interface. There are budget ones that cost $150. Just spend money for the right thing. Just buy a simple audio interface and use this for recording. Don't try to record with an integrated audio interface into the motherboard of your computer. Because according to all interfaces I had experience to work, some of them capture the signal from motherboard, and this is the additional noise, and this is the additional problem for your mix. Moreover, these interfaces do not allow to do right audio preamping, so they are not enough to hide amplifier job. The next problem, the invalid or bad instrument tone. We will go back to the guitar and look into how does it sound. Maybe you can say that there is nothing special with the guitar, it sounds good, but that's not correct. You must understand that we have some we have some issues with our understanding of the mix and our understanding of how does the instrument sound. First of all, when we hear the mix, we hear many instruments inside of this mix. For example, drums with cymbals. We hear bass and we hear the guitar. So let's consider we are working with a simple rock mix where there are overdriven guitars, bass, and drums. When we have no drums and when we have no bass, we hear the guitar in another way. We understand then that we are missing bass and we are missing high frequencies. And we try to compensate this with tuning our high frequencies higher on the equalizer and boosting our low frequencies on the equalizer for the guitar. And finally, when we boost high frequencies and low frequencies, we get the middle frequencies lowered too much. Let's look at the spectrogram of the guitar. I'll just add the spectrum analyzer to the project and we'll look at this. Also, there's spoiler. We will test the new UI for LSP Plugins 1.2.0, which will probably come, which will be probably issued soon. So we need LSP Spectrum Analyzer X2. And we will just enable 2 channels to analyze the track. What do we see here? We see that there is no extra low frequencies, that's good. We see that there is no extra high frequencies, that's good too. But we see that the I call so high middle frequencies of the guitar are too much, and there are no low middle frequencies at all in the guitar sound. So probably this guitar sounds well when it is out of the mix, but inside the mix it will sound very poorly, because this part of the spectrum is very important for the guitar too. So when we will just launch the mix and hear the guitar in the mix, because the guitar is lacking this range of frequencies, it will lose in the final mix. It will be lost in the final mix. So we'll correct this a bit later. The second problem is the next problem is using extra processing on the instrument. So what do we mean? We mean also the equalization, and also, as you can hear, there seems to be some reverb on the guitar. At least I hear this reverb, and this reverb is like the enemy for you. the guitar should be audible as raw as possible. So when recording the guitar, I just recommend to turn off any processing of the guitar and just use the overdrive or distortion to understand the final picture of the sound and to understand how the overdriven guitar will sound, but disable any reverbs, delays, and so on. That's because reverbs don't help you to understand how precise have you played the take you are recording. So don't use any reverbs, don't use any delays, just turn on the distortion if you need it and record guitar as it is. Any processing can be added after you have recorded the guitar or another instrument. The next problem related to the guitar is not recording the direct input of the signal of the guitar. If you have the possibility to record the direct input of the guitar, please do this. Let me explain why it's so important at this moment. As you remember from the original post of the author, he had to record the instrument into 2 sessions. So the settings between 2 sessions could differ one to another. And even if the first session was good, the second session could be not so good in tuning. And it is very hard to match one session to another if you have no basis. And sometimes, as you already understand, the original tone of the guitar can be invalid. It can be comfortable for recording, but not comfortable for mixing. And if this is so, it is better to just change the settings of the guitar, of the overdrive and other processing, but without the original signal which comes from the pickups of the guitar, it is not possible. If you have the original signal that comes from pickups of the guitar, you can do anything with this. You can just press play, route this signal to some processing like digital processor, like analog amplifier, and so on. Tune the tone you need to capture this tone, and work with this tone. So if you have the option and you have the possibility to record the original signal from the guitar, so-called direct input signal or DI signal, please do this. The next problem is trying to simulate the hardware instead of purchasing it. This is related to some software processors and like Guitarix mentioned above, and other plugins that simulate the distortion and overdrive and so on, instead of using the analog solution for this. Sometimes it is good, sometimes it is not good. Not all plugins do the job well, and if you play with analog gear, you can hear a difference. Even the simulation is pretty good, and the difference often comes not in the sounding of the signal, but in how the signal responds to what you actually play. So according to my last experience, I found that the digital processor doesn't correctly react on the dynamics that I try to put into the instrument. So, for example, I can just play not so loud and try to cut the string with my pickup with my pick. And for the processor, that doesn't matter. I have the same output at the end, and that's not true. So, trying to replace the pretty cheap gear at this moment, you can just buy a good preamp and use it for recording instead of trying to simulate the distortion sound with not so good plugins. I will consider that GuitarX is not pretty good at simulating the distortion, and it is very, very bad at simulating the cabinet simulator. I tried to do some stuff with GuitarX and I found that I can't tune the tone I want to get from it. And some impulse responses built into a cabinet are just have notches in the signal, and that's bad. Even if you have problems with purchasing the simple gear that allows you to use distortion and apply then impulse responses, you can use GuitarX, but that's then emergency option, I think. So this is the problem. Don't try to simulate hardware with software. If it is possible to solve the problem just with purchasing this hardware. The next problem, if we look at the project, is that the drums are recorded with a single track. The main problem for this is that the original track was generated in hydrogen, and the problem of hydrogen is that if you use instruments from the drum kit, the different instruments in the drum kit can be not can have not right loudness according one to another. This is the first problem. And the second problem, that different instruments in the hydrogen kit can have different tones. And sometimes you need to tune the tone of each instrument. So exporting the whole drum track as a single track is not good. The first one is that different loudness of instruments, different tone of instruments, and the third problem is that there you probably will need to apply different panning of instruments in the stereo image. And having the single track, you cannot do this at all. So if you use the drum machine, please export each instrument as a separate track. And if this is the mono instrument, like a bass drum or a snare or a cymbal or something else, and you are not using that drum gizmo, which simulates the multi-track recording of drums, and using simple sampler like hydrogen, please export each track as a mono instrument, and don't try to pan the instruments in hydrogen. It is much easier to pan the instruments in your final mix. The next problem is that as I see, there was no velocity used, there was no humanization used, and there are no different samples used for the same instrument in the drum kit. So if we listen for the snare, it sounds almost the same for among the whole track. So the snare sounds the same. Each strike sounds the same. The real drummer can't play this, and the real drummer will sound a bit another. And moreover, the real drummer will follow the groove, and probably we will strike with another manner for the main note and in another manner for the non-primer note. So this also distinguishes the sampled drums from the real drums, and especially the cymbals are good indicator about which drums have been used, the electronic drums or the real recorded drums, since the live cymbals do not sound like this. I will just find the hi-hat or the crash somewhere. The crash doesn't sound like this. The live crash, of course. So if you try to simulate drums with samples, please use different samples. Please play with velocity and humanization. So this is another mistake which the novices do while recording the project. The next problem is that novices often hurry instead of taking the rest and thinking of how to do or reduce something or improve something they have already done. So this often comes when the project has been done and then you find, oh wow, I did there a great mistake and now it's very hard to fix it. So please, if you have some problems, don't try to solve these problems trying to break the wall. Just stop, think, and understand how you can solve these problems in the right way, or ask another people who had experience with this. The next problem is not understanding the principles of how basic audio processing plugins work, like plugins like equalizer, processor, compressor, limiter, etc. So I probably will do the basic mixing of this project, and we will find out some principles that I use when mixing projects. And the more important thing is understanding the balance between instruments. If we just play this track, we will find out that bass is too loud for this style of music. So finally, the author Karchvatel has added the final mix he has done, and I think we will probably import this final mix and listen for the result. Oh, I don't need this session import, and here it is. So we'll just route this to master and listen for the final mix. So this is to master. And let's listen. As you can see, the problem of guitars wasn't solved. Guitars are still bringing into the soup, and moreover, they are too annoying. There's a lot of reverb on drums, and drums come to the back, Guitars are also somewhere in the back, and there is nothing in the front of the mix. So this is understanding of the image of the stereo mix. And guitars sound like mono guitars. And bass is too loud too. So probably we will just mix this original project in the way as I understand the mixing should be done. Probably I won't bring something new into this mix. Maybe I won't align something around this, or maybe I will fix the alignment of the tracks somewhere. But we will constrain us with that fact that we won't bring something new into the mix. So we won't record any new instruments, we won't re-record drums and so on. We will work with just what we have at this moment. So probably let's start. I'll mute this track. This will be the reference for us to compare with. And first of all, I will just make these tracks smaller. And let's look what we can do. First of all, the best way to work with these instruments is to group different tracks of the same instrument into the group. So we'll add additional group called guitar, rhythm guitar. So we need to add a bass, 2 basses, stereo, and call the rhythm guitar. Oh, we have to add 2 basses. Okay, probably we'll use the second bass for something else. And we will change the routing. We will route this guitar not to master, but to the rhythm guitar bass. And this track we will route to rhythm guitar too. So when we just solo the guitar, we have not routed it to the master. I'll fix this. We will see that we have only one instrument sound in this moment. What I will do next, I will change the panning of the guitars. I will move the one take to the 90% to right, and the first take I will move to the 90% to left. I believe this is sounding better than the original panning. So let's listen. The original panning was, I believe, 70 to 30. Let's listen. So let's do this back to 10 to 90. And let's listen the second take, the second session, what's out there. I think I can combine these tracks into one and forget about these two. The second problem is that takes are not aligned and I need to do this job. I did it wrong. I just need to select this take and align this to the grid. And then I need to move all this to the top. It is much easier when the takes are aligned to the grid. So let's remove this. And I believe I will do the same for the solo guitar. I won't listen what's happening there, I will just do this. Oh, that was the tail. Okay. So the next step, we need to find the balance between instruments. I will remove this track at this moment. And the problem with the drums, additional problem with the drums, is that there is a reverb too. Probably don't hear it, but it is. It is present. Anyway, now we need to find the balance between instruments, and I start with disabling the guitar, the solo guitar, and disabling the bass. And what I will do at the first time, I will lower the loudness of drums. I will change master to 0, and I will lower the loudness of drums to minus probably 12 decibels. Let's listen. I can't look at the drums that aren't aligned. I just need to align them. I just need to select all and at least align drums to the grid. Probably that's not correct. I believe this should be done in this way. At least this looks reasonable. And this is something out of the beat. Oh no, that's fitting. But that's strange. That's something strange. The kick at the beginning. It's not fitting the grid. All others are fitting pretty well. Okay, now we have drums aligned, so I can just listen for that. Okay, butterfly here. So we start setting balance between bass and drums. To set the balance, just disable the instrument and add it until you find out that the instrument is sounding good. I think I need to scroll a bit. That's too much. I think this is pretty enough at this time. Let's listen to the written guitar. Also, to ensure that we found a good balance, we can use the addition plugin. This is called the loudness compensation plugin, introduced by LSP project. In this plugin, we can reduce the volume according to the equal loudness contour. So even the main problem is that when we lower the volume, we see the loudness of different frequencies a bit in another way. This plugin allows to compensate that fact that when lowering the basses, when lowering the loudness, we hear basses a bit less. We lose the basses, and we lose the middle frequencies and high frequencies too. So we will just reduce the loudness by about 12 decibels or more and listen for the balance between instruments. We see that we hear all instruments in the mix. We hear the kick, we hear the cymbals, we hear the bass, we hear the guitars. And bass is pretty loud a bit. So now we can raise the volume. So now we can add the solo guitar. So we found some balance, and now we can mix the instruments one to another using this balance. So don't try to correct the instruments in soloing mode unless you get experience with this. It is much better to correct the tone of instruments while hearing the whole mix. Anyway, at this moment I will start with just the written guitar and listen for it in the solo mode, and we will find out all the problems of the written guitar. And the first step that we will do, we will perform the equalization of each instrument in the mix. So let's start with the written guitar. I'll add the equalizer plugin. Since the guitar is stereo, I need to add the stereo equalizer plugin. And now we will take some loop and work on it. As you remember, there were problems with the middle and the high frequencies. So let's correct them. Also, if we turn on the loudness is pretty good now. If we turn, we will find if we turn on the loudness more, for example, using the limiter, and pumping on the loudness. For example, I will lower the threshold up to 6 decibels. We will see still the problem in the guitar and hear this problem. And there are some annoying frequencies in the signal. And that's why we need to correct it. So let's loop guitar and find these problem places. I'll take the resonance filter for that and look for the problems in the spectrum. That's the first problem. We'll cut it out. The next one. This frequency is very annoying. We'll remove this. Also, you see that there are notches. The notch here and the notch here. That's the problem of the recording. We can't fix this. And this very ringing sound, this should be removed at all. Let's compare the unprocessed signal. And there are more problems. Here. So that's the instrument without processing. And that's the instrument with processing. I believe we need to look for this frequency too. I don't like this too. I need to lower this frequency. So that was, and that's it. Now let's check for the balance. Since we have changed the loudness, changed the frequency response of the guitar, we need to check for the loudness of the guitar in the mix. So we'll disable the solo guitar and check the mix. The guitar is pretty loud. Okay, now let's look at the solo guitar. I believe that guitar has the same issues. Yes. We will cut the resonances in the signal of the guitar. This is, you see, that's almost the equal equalization for the second guitar. So that's with processing. That's without processing. I think we can a bit carry the tone. Okay, let's check the mix. So now guitar sounds better, but we have additional problems that we need to solve. And the first, how does the bass sound? I also don't know why the bass was recorded as a stereo. this small resonance. And this one. Okay, this bass should be a bit corrected in the dynamics, and I will add the compressor. Always do the A/B test. So we'll compensate the loudness. So good. Okay, we have compressed the dynamics of bass, and now we need to make it conforming with the drums. So for that case, we can use the sidechain compressor. We will pin the connections and put the connections from the drum track to bass. Add the sidechain and add the send from the drums. Okay, anyway, if you have recorded in two ways the bass in two ways, that's not problem. It will sound a bit different, but that I believe that won't matter. Anyway, we need to listen how the drums and bass will work together using the sidechain. So let's start and sidechain the bass. Dr. Sen, you are right, operator. It's not good to work with such sources, but we will try to make as possible as we can with these sources. It is a good training anyway. So we'll need to enable the sidechain to the external, and now we see that drums trigger the point moving around the characteristics of the compressor. So we'll lower the threshold, raise the attack and lower the release. So while we raise the attack, we make the compressor to work faster when triggering the drum kick or snare kick or snare. Lowering the release, we lower the time when the compressor stops working and the original sound of the bass becomes amplified, not again reduced. So let's look. And without the compressor. We see that the kick comes out of the bass. Here the kick conflicts with the bass. Now we have to tune our drums. I won't do any equalization. Probably I will do this combined with the multiband compressing. I believe first of all drums require some compressing to pick up the loudness of the cymbals and the snare, and after that we will compress the drums with the multiband compressor. So we'll just apply a simple single band compressor. So we'll cut picks, we'll cut drum picks, drum punches, and keep the body. And make up the signal. No, I like that more. And now we will apply the multiband compressing. Multiband compressor stereo. Right. The kick consists of two primary frequencies or ranges in there: kick and click. Because we have snare together with the kick, it is very hard to get the click, but we will try to get the kick out of the drums. Let's listen. The compressor is disabled, and the enable compressor. Much more low end. Okay, now what's the middle frequencies? That's a snare body. You see how the compressor works in the upper middle range. That sounds much better, I believe. We can add more. And higher frequencies. There are cymbals working. Without the processing and with the processing. Now we will enable the bass and check the mix. So we will mute the guitars and guitar. Okay, I just need to lower the volume. Okay, we also need to correct the mid side of the drums, since we see that the snare is somewhere shifted to the left. I think we can try to apply the mid side equalizer. And cut lower frequencies. So we see that the snare has moved to the middle. And we can add some side to the signal to the drums to make them wider. Okay. I need to lower the loudness. Now we need to check the guitar. I think I need to cut some high middle of the guitar. Or I can apply another equalizer to just correct the tone. I think that's pretty enough. The question, I have made each instrument of the drum set independent. Is it possible to apply the multi-band compressor to the drums? Yes, of course, you can create a bus where you mix all the drums into the single instrument, and there you can apply the multi-band compression to the drums. Anyway, it is better to adjust settings of each instrument in the drum set first, and then when you combine them into the single instrument like drum kit, you can add additional processing to them. So what we can do at this moment now, we have pretty better sound in mix. Let's raise the loudness and see. I think guitars are still a bit loud. And for the solo guitar, we can add the high, a bit the high middle to make this distinguishable out of the mix. So we add the parametric equalizer, stereo, I believe, yes, and just listen for it. It is also good to control the problems in our mix. We can just go to the master bus, add an equalizer, and listen for the non-good sounding frequencies. So we'll do this. So I'll add the resonance filter and check the mix. Something wrong here. Here's the problem frequency. I need to check this frequency gain. Just go here and cut this frequency out of the guitar spectrum. I don't like this frequency at all. So I need to disable this equalizer at this moment and listen for the guitar. Here it is. The original sound guitar and the process gear. Now much better. Okay, it seems to be pretty balanced. Okay, now we can do the following. We have set the balance, especially we don't need a lot of tuning on the bass. Bass is sounding pretty good for me. We can add extra pains to the sounding. So to make guitars and other stuff sounding much more interesting. So that can be made by applying, for example, bass enhancer to the drums. Let's look. I will use the Calf bass enhancer. Let's listen. The question about the snare, it is a bit loud. We still didn't apply the mastering to the track, so I believe it will come out after mastering. Let's add some low frequencies. Let's listen. The low punch. Good. And I believe we can do the same with the bass. I think pretty enough. Well, we have instruments not playing together, but we have the full image of the mix that bass and drum have extra low end at this moment. And now with guitars, we can apply exciter to the signal. So let's do this. We'll use a Calf exciter. This is also pretty good plugin. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Let's listen. These extra frequencies, we'll add them. The guitar is sounding a bit poor, and now it will sound a bit richer. And with the second guitar. But we will use another range of frequencies, a bit different, to make it more distinguishable. Also, we can add saturator to the drums. Calf saturator. Where is it? Here it is. Let's listen. I think this is pretty enough. You will see now how the snare spring is sounding. We hear the spring of the snare better. And we can move this before the compressor. The snare sound much better. Let's listen to the whole mix. Okay, I think I will add additional bass and rudal instruments to this bass. I'll call this bass mix. Oh, I have added 2 basses. Remove 1. Yes. The mix bass, put it before master, connect it to the master. And put the instruments which were put to the master to this bass. So basses, this and tracks, this, and this, and disconnect the extra tracks from master. So I'll disconnect the basses and tracks, solo, bass, drums. This track will be kept, and move all instruments from master. Oh, I don't need to move them except the limiter. Cut and paste here. I think this is pretty enough for such dirty mix. I think we need to do some quick mastering of this track. First of all, we need to apply the multiband compressor. And cut all peaks which are initiated by the drums and other percussion. So we'll add the multiband compressor, stereo, and try the mix. I will lower the loudness. I'll work in peak mode with look ahead of 5 milliseconds. That allows us to start compressor working a bit earlier. So here we set peak and 5 milliseconds look ahead. and short attack and release just to cut the peaks. That's without the compressor applied, and that's with applied compressor. Now let's listen to the full volume. And now let's tune the limiter. It's already working, but we need to tune it. Let's set oversampling to 4. Dither to 16-bit. We'll raise the key. Now I need to disable, raise the loudness. Let's listen to the full volume. Oh, sorry. We can lower the loudness of the snare a bit. I think that this is pretty enough for this project. We will just compare it with the original recording. Let's listen. If you hear the difference, please thumbs ups, thumbs ups, thumbs ups. We can raise the guitars a bit. And guitars are not so annoying. Compare how the snare sounds. We also can add some reverb to drums, but we will do this in such manner. We will add the bass and pass the signal through this bass and add reverb on this bass. So we'll add track bus or VCA, audio buses, one bus called reverb. This is the stereo bus. We will route it to master, and we will route the input to drums and put this bus at the top of drums. And we will do the following. We have already sent the signal to reverb, but we will add some reverb, for example, calf reverb. And we will disable any dry signal and just listen for a wet signal. I think I will just disconnect the bus from the master at this moment. So from the mix, and we will listen for the drums. And also I will disable any processing on the master at this moment. So let's listen. Here you can see the reverb. And we will set, I like the experimental presetting of calf. And moreover, we need to cut low frequencies before they come to the reverb. So there are parasite frequencies and we don't need them. We will add an equalizer, LSP parametric equalizer, stereo, and cut off the low frequencies for about 20 Hz. So we need a high pass filter, and we'll cut this something like this. And we will cut a lot of high frequencies too. So we need low pass filter, but more soft. So like this. Let's listen. I'll disable the reverb at this moment. So I don't hear any signal. Oh. Why I don't hear the signal? There should be the signal. Reverb. Oh, it's routed to master. That's not right. I need to route this to mix. and I still don't hear. Probably calf is not okay. It's not passing. I think I need to disable the wet and listen for dry now. And tune some parametric equalizer. So this kick is not needed. I think this is enough. So we'll turn off the dry signal and apply the wet signal. So I don't hear the drums. There is only to send to reverb. That's not right. There should be sent to mix to. And now we will add reverb. I think this is pretty enough. And additionally, not to change the placement of the drums, we need to add the pre-delay. Since if there is no pre-delay, the drums will look like they are far. But we need drums to be near, and to make them be near, we need to add the pre-delay to the reverb. Let's look how the picture changes when we tune the pre-delay. Drums are far, and now we add the pre-delay. And the drums become near and near. But there's still much more delay, too much delay, too much reverb. I think pre-delay of 12 milliseconds is pretty well. And we don't have a reverb on the kick, and that's good. So, okay, and the one more thing that I like to do is to sidechain the reverb with a snare drum. How to do this when the drums are combined? I think I'll sidechain the reverb with the world drums. This will be interesting. I'll add the sidechain compressor. Sidechain compressor stereo, pin the connections, add the drums to the sidechain, and connect them to the compressor, enable the external sidechain, and let's look how the reverb will work. Also, we need long attack and short release for this. So now reverb plays in ping pong with the snare. Punch, 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 punch. Now you can hear this. This is too much sidechain. I think we need to raise the ratio. Lower the ratio. And without the sidechain. Let's listen again. And with the sidechain compressor. You see that snare comes out of the reverb. Okay, let's listen the whole mix. And add the multiband compression. And limiter. And let's compare with the original recording done by the author. Yes, instruments are not working well one to another, but now we can add some reverb to the solo guitar, I believe. I won't do the extra bass, I'll add the reverb to the solo guitar, just to solo guitar. And I will use shorter delay, shorter reverb. Also calf. I also will disable in the mix the mastering and check the for delay. There's too much reverb. Also, I will add the pre-delay. I think this is enough. And the rhythm guitar I will move about to the back, a bit to the back by adding the reverb. Calf reverb, and I will just do the same thing, set the medium. And add short pre-delay. And now let's apply the mastering to the simple mastering to the mix. And compare to the original mix. Let's listen how it sounds in mono. And now we can look at the meter. We can limit more. Okay, I think we can end up this at this moment. We will just listen to the mix and compare with the original mix. If you have any questions, you may ask them. I'll try to answer them. We have still some time for that. Okay, one more recommendation to add the large tail on your recording to make possible to make a pretty good sounding fade out. So here we have not pretty good sounding fade out. I can add some fade out, but that won't be sounding pretty good. So the tail of drums would be nice if could sound until it fades out to zero. So if you have no questions, I want to say goodbye to you today. Please subscribe the channel. Maybe we will do yet more video about the audio recording and audio processing, about music and some other aspects of music. And also keep in mind, I'm leading the series of video where I perform the improvement of Linux driver of the Focusrite Scarlett device. So set the thumbs up to the channel, subscribe, and maybe make the donation to me, because your donations help me to develop the software and purchase the drivers for the Scarlett purchase the Scarlett devices to write the drivers for them. So hope you enjoyed this video, and bye bye.